enter this midway through the month of July, and we're early on in the SEC, their 16-team league, as we decipher the schedules. Not so much predictions, but really kind of the uniqueness. I saw somebody make a comment about how Craig has turned what could be a boring situation looking at schedules and made it an art form. So, Craig, we have Georgia.
Yeah, it's time for Georgia now, guys. Really excited to be talking about them today. I just had to be a smartass about that comment and really tone this down.
That came
doing
from
too
a heavy
well for
hitter.
myself. No, I appreciate whoever said that. I try to make this as interesting as it can be because it is, after all, just looking at schedules. But I do want to clear up. I do know Michael Van Buren's at LSU and not at Mississippi State.
Yeah.
I don't know if it sounded that way when I said it, but it's just weird how they went from having like a little bit of hope and excitement of this young quarterback, and now here they are, and it's Blake Shapen again. You know what I mean?
He's starting?
Yes, he's their media day rep. That's what I just said. Yeah.
God. Okay.
That's what I was saying. You had Michael Van Buren, and he's at LSU now behind Nussmeier. So you know who they've got coming down the pipeline. I wanted to clear the air on that because Van Buren's not at Mississippi State. It's the Shapen show, and that's just crazy because it seems like he's been in college for 7 years.
There's nothing about Blake. I know he left and it was time to leave because they thought it was time for Baylor wanted to go a different direction. No, I wish him well.
Yeah, good luck to him. He was part of their best team ever, and I hope he can stay healthy and have a full year because that's what cut short his year last year was the injuries once again. So good luck to Blake. He's a nice dude. But this is about the Georgia Bulldogs. So here we go. A look in, not so much a prediction. And Georgia last year, disappointing finish, losing to the Fighting Irish there on January the 2nd in the Sugar Bowl playoff quarterfinal matchup down in New Orleans, and their third loss of the year. Kind of a down year from that standpoint for Georgia to not finish in the national championship game and to finish with 3 losses over your head. Did win the SEC, though, obviously, and finished 11-3. Overall had the big pair of wins over Texas that were part of their highlight package. But new year, new team. And how does everything look on paper for them? Well, looks pretty good for starters because you will play host to Marshall on Saturday, August the 30th. There is one non-Saturday game for Georgia, and we'll get to that at the very end. But Marshall up first on August the 30th, already announced as a 2:30 ESPN kick. And see, that's a game where when people talk about these TV networks and like Cody Campbell last week about, well, we got Saturdays. Like I know there's other games on August 30th, but like, a main ESPN game is Georgia-Marshall, which is great for Marshall.
Yeah.
But you would just think there might be bigger matchups early on than on main ESPN. But they will be main ESPN in the afternoon against Marshall. The following week, they will play host to Austin Peay. So that's what you're looking at in your non-con before you get into SEC play. They're in week number 3, and it opens up with a couple of bangers, as Smokey would say, but first things first, Saturday, September the 13th in Knoxville. It'll be Georgia and Tennessee. No love lost there. 2:30 ABC kickoff. And Tennessee, post-Nico, getting a big challenge out of the gates early on. We'll see kind of where they are with Aguilar and company at that point, but huge test for them. Georgia then will have their first bye week. So their first 3 games, Marshall, Austin Peay, win, and then at Tennessee, which is a little bit more of a curve than a fastball there. But how much of a curve is it? We have no idea at this point in time. But then they take their first break. So that means at some point they're going to have a pretty significant couple of chunks. But, that's an interesting kind of mild start for season ticket holders there.
Yeah, look, and if I'm picking a team that could roll through and have a really great record this year and then be maybe surprised at the end, it might be Georgia because they really do. Like this schedule, again, on paper, just looking ahead, I mean, their non-conference schedule is, I mean, outside of their last non-conference game that they play every year, it kind of
almost like they shouldn't even be playing these teams. It's so lopsided.
And I don't want to like crap on these teams at all. But when you're sitting in Atlanta today, going like, "Oh man, it's really hard to play in the SEC." Like, all right.
Why do you have to sound like a Southern guy?
But I mean, like,
Georgia Tech's a non-conference game.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's But the
I
other
get what you're
three,
saying.
I mean,
You could take the best players on all three of those teams, make a super team of those three teams, and they would still get blown out by 40, pretty much. So, yeah. So they will take that break after Tennessee, and at least that road trip early in the first month of the season, they'll test them a little bit. And before they get out of September, they'll have 2 weeks to prepare, but it's Alabama. Between the hedges there in Athens, it's already been announced as an ABC night game on September the 27th. So Tennessee and Bama with a bye week sandwiched in between. They'll stay at home the following week and play host to Kentucky, which not a lot really expected with them. I think, if anything, maybe the more interesting topics like who's the next head coach at Kentucky at this point. But they'll play Kentucky at home, and then it is back on the road for a meeting with Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers. Then a whole home game against Ole Miss, and in a pretty evenly broken up schedule, they'll get their second bye week. So they'll have a 5-game stretch to close the year, but that middle stretch, Bama at home, Kentucky at home, Auburn on the road, Ole Miss at home.
I mean, that like Alabama, Ole Miss to bookend that's tough. I mean, those are not going to be easy games. We don't know about Auburn yet, though. That's the thing. And I would think by October 11th, you'll know who Auburn is.
I think you'll know who they are at the end of
Yeah.
August. I mean, teams can get better, but I think we're going to get an idea of some teams by the end of the first games in August.
So at this point, you are sitting there with, Bama on the schedule and Tennessee and that. But, I mean, you've played 2 road games and you're halfway through the year. And you're not playing but one real road game in the second half of the schedule. So coming off that second bye week, you will kick things off on November the 1st, this stretch run, and it'll be neutral site with the Florida Gators, world's largest cocktail party. So dogs and Gators, and man, what a ferocious rivalry that is. And I know Florida expects to be better, so there could be a bit of a test there for Georgia. Then road trip to Starkville to take on Mississippi State, who right now appears to be the worst team in the league on paper. Then back home, November 15th, they welcome in Texas. So Texas has already gone to play Georgia. Is it Georgia hasn't played at College Station? Is that the one that still hasn't happened yet? Yeah. 15 years into this agreement, and they still have never traveled to College Station. That's crazy. But Texas...
No flights from that small airport they have in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's tough. You ever been to that little tiny airport in Atlanta?
The problem is not flying out of Atlanta. It's driving in to get to Atlanta.
Yeah.
You can't fly to
But what's crazy is
Houston.
That 15-ish years now in, and A&M is still not hosted Georgia. In the first 2 years of Texas's existence in the SEC, they already have a home and away with Georgia, and it's just knocked out. Now, there's somebody they're obviously not playing for a while, like their version of that, but I just find that to be utterly ridiculous that A&M has not hosted Georgia, and we're nearing the 20-year anniversary of being in the league. That's just insane.
Well, it's also just the fact they haven't played them but once, right?
They've only played them one time.
It's crazy.
They only played them one time.
Since they joined the SEC,
So, that's just wild. But Texas will have knocked out the Georgia two-step in their first 2 years. So Texas, and if last year's any indication, that ought to be a hell of a football game.
Mm-hmm.
So that one will be a big one. And then after you get to UT winding down the schedule here, it is Charlotte for your late non-con game on November the 22nd. So that'll mean absolutely nothing whatsoever. And then their lone Friday game, the big rivalry, another non-con. So start off the year with 2 non-cons, end the year with 2 non-cons. It's kind of weird, guys.
Like, when did they slide that late? Like Georgia Tech's rivalry is like Florida State, whatever. When did they start sliding those FCS schools toward the back towards their schedule?
Charlotte's in the Sun Belt, but
you're talking about that game, okay?
Yeah, their FCS
5 or 6.
Their FCS game is actually early, but yeah, they started doing that. It's been a while. It's probably been 20 years.
Yeah, and of course
it happened before. Here's when it happened before. It happened before they started tooting their horn about how tough it was. And then everybody kind of didn't notice it for a while. And then now...
Yeah, maybe they've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah, they've been doing it for
It's interesting, though. They could play 10 conference games during COVID, as Pat Smith mentioned. They didn't have a problem with that.
What FSU used to do was they used to play. I mean, their FCS game was always early, like back in the day, but they had a way to maybe manipulate the ACC so that they weren't playing, one of the better, like they weren't playing North Carolina and then Florida. They would play like Wake Forest or Duke, the two bottom feeders of the league before the expansion, and then Florida.
Now Wake Forest and Duke play Florida State. One of the
exactly. That was
okay.
that was their thing. But yeah.
All right. Sorry about that. Got off on a tangent.
Yeah.
But I was just comparing like what they, the ways they did it. So yeah, go ahead.
All right. So after Charlotte there on November the 22nd, they will close out the schedule on November the 28th. Georgia Tech, the neutral site rivalry game there on Black Friday. Already announced as an afternoon ABC game, and that's where it will finish up, is with Georgia Tech there, neutral site, Black Friday. So, yeah, there is the Georgia schedule. Couple of non-cons to open and end the season. The big non-con being Georgia Tech, but, yeah, Marshall, Austin Peay, and Charlotte also part of that schedule. So when you hear the 8-game schedule thing, you totally get it because you see Tennessee, you see Alabama, you see Florida, you see Texas. Not that they're all good every year, although they get the benefit of the doubt in that way. But you also then see, an extra team that's just going to get beat by 70. So it's that sort of balance that is the topic of conversation, depending on where you're talking. It goes one way or the other. But that is the Georgia schedule. They do not play this season. Arkansas, they don't play LSU, they don't play Mizzou, they don't play Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas A&M, or Vanderbilt. So those are the teams they'll miss out on unless they meet in the championship.
They do get the games against Alabama, Texas, Ole Miss at home, right? I mean, that's not bad at all. Okay.
Yep. The only two they have 3 actual real road games
in the conference.
Tennessee in general. Tennessee, Auburn, and Mississippi State.
Oh,
they
that's
got
right.
2
That's
neutral
right.
site games.
That's right.
With Florida and Georgia Tech.
And of course, that game with Georgia Tech last year, remember that? The spearing or the targeting call and Haynes King had the ball and he couldn't hold on to it. He talked about that with us about a couple weeks ago, and they didn't get the call. And Georgia, they found a way, man. They came back and found a way to win that game. But I would think that overall, Georgia last year has to have a sour taste in their mouth. Last year did not end the way they wanted, no matter how far they got.
But by the way, I went back to look at how many times A&M and Georgia have played overall.
4.
6.
6. Okay.
6. They're 3-3 against each other. A&M's wins came in 1950 in the Presidential Cup Bowl, in 1953, and in 1954. In 53, they played that game in Dallas. And then since then, in 1980, Georgia won.
That's Herschel Walker.
Yeah, and 42-0.
That's Herschel Walker.
Yeah, and in 2009 they played the Independence Bowl and Georgia won, and then they played again in 19. It was 1913 in Athens.
Yeah, that's crazy. And Texas has been in the league 2 years, and they get to play Georgia both times.
Yeah, but they're going to have some similar situation. It's just not Georgia. It's going to be like
South Carolina's never played Arkansas or something like that.
But so even when they did play in Texas against A&M, they played that game in Dallas.
Yeah. All right, Craig, thank you very much.